Welcome back to Speaking of Meaning, everybody. I am Ibrahim, and today I'm joined by Oscar Lin Holt. Oscar has an engineering background and PhD. And for the last 10 plus years, he has been an expert on negotiation and communication. Oscar, good to have you.
Thanks for the invitation.
Well, I am excited for this conversation because you are going to talk about a topic I'm really interested in, but that I don't know much about. It's negotiation.
Yeah, I find it such a fascinating topic. And I would say when people dive into it and you get to know more about it, you see that there are so many opportunities that can just be increased. And we just talked before we entered here, you have 3 kids. You're going to be able to use this right after the show with your kids, with your partner and colleagues. And so it's not just in a business room, it's everywhere all the time when negotiating.
All right, so not just with colleagues, but also with kids.
Also with kids, I tell you, it made a massive difference for me. Not that I succeed every time. It's not a magical formula. That'll be putting too much on, but definitely you can increase the success rate of simple things, getting your clothes on, eating your food, getting out the door.
Oscar, you've been doing this for 10 plus years. Can you tell me, what is your mission?
Well, I think my mission is a few different things. One is thinking about when I kind of get to the end of my life, I want to be able to look back and say, hey, I made a difference for some people in a positive way. So that's kind of like for the society. And then, of course, my mission is also to be the most that I can for my kids, my wife, those that are close to me. And whenever I develop new skills, get better, I can give that to my kids. I'm already teaching my children how to become better at communicating, how to sell better. My oldest daughter is close to 12, in a way that makes sense for her in her world. So the more I grow, the more I can give. So that's kind of the mission I'm on.
And so for the last 10 years, you've been working on communication and
Yeah.
negotiation.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you end up in that field?
Yeah. So it's kind of like by a few coincidences. I was sitting in a job being an engineer, and I could see on paper I was making a difference, but I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't really enjoy the job. Nice colleagues, nice pay, all of that. But then I was trying just a lot of different things. And one time I stumbled across a course in the Engineering Association on public speaking. And I thought, yeah, kind of nice to know just a little about it. I would present sometimes at work. And it just totally opened my world. There was so much, to becoming a better communicator. And then I joined a club called Toastmasters, went there for several years and really learned the art of speaking and did a lot of things outside the club as well. So that was kind of my transition into that because it just felt right. That was really why.
Yeah. You felt it was your calling, basically.
Yeah, I just, it felt right. I mean, I don't know if you've tried that, Ibrahim. It looks right on paper. People tell you, oh, that's great, but you're not feeling fulfilled. You're not feeling satisfied. I enjoy being on stage. I enjoy having people come and say, oh, that was a really nice tip. I think I'm going to go home and try that, So that's how I got into it, just by trying a lot of different things. And then eventually going with, this feels right. And then, of course, for many, many years, I didn't really believe I could do it, coming from an engineering background, which has, in some sense, not that much to do with communication, although it does actually have, if you dig a little bit deeper. You can use a lot of it.
Because most things have to do with communication in one way or another.
Totally. When I worked as a PhD student, I would say most of your job is actually communicating. Of course, you are in the lab, you're trying to discover things, but when you write your articles, when you go to conferences, it's about communicating the value you create. And for a lot of scientists in that community, if we're just talking about that, their careers can be very successful if they're good at communicating. They can also be very limited and very short if they can't communicate. So just a few things. If you have a phrase like, however, however, it's like, hey, there's going to be a problem, or but, or despite of, like, those tweaks. Be like, I better read that article. There's something to it. So there's a lot you can learn within communication and make a massive difference. It's not just in the scientific community; it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yes.
Oscar, for the listeners right now,
Mhm.
if people could only take one thing from this conversation,
Yeah.
what do you hope it is?
For me, I would say one of the mistakes I made for many years is, and also coming from an engineering background, is trying to solve people's problems. So earlier, when my wife would come home, I would listen and then give advice on what she could do. And I would say 9 out of 10 times, she doesn't need that advice. She just needs to be listened and understood. Most people just want to be understood and not solved. So now today, even with clients, with my kids, if they have an understanding, hey, I'm understanding them, or I'm trying to understand them, most things get solved.
Most things get solved, and this is what we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
Negotiation.
Yes.
And so what is negotiation?
Yeah. At its core, it's really solving problems. So, for instance, a while ago, one of my friends, she was moved to a different department because that department, they were having a few problems, a few layoffs, and they needed somebody that's stable, delivers well. And then, because the person's delivering well, the manager wants her to stay. But that's not what is in her interest. He wants to go back to the old department. He said, I'm not going to get that fixed. It's not really my problem. No, I had to tell her, that is your problem. You have to solve the problem of the manager, because if you don't, it's going to be your problem. So negotiation is really about helping the other one solve their problem. And of course, get what you want as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have to help them see how you can help them. That, for me, is at its core. And that's why you have a dialogue back and forth. You ask questions, you're curious, you use your knowledge to see if you can open them up and get them to think in new ways. So you're basically solving a problem for them.
So you're solving a problem for
Yes.
somebody else and also solving your own problem?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So in my world, I mainly sell courses in companies. Could be negotiation or other things related to communication. Well, they have a problem. Maybe their leaders aren't listened to, or there's a lack of direction, or there's a waste of time in the meetings. That's their problem, right? I have to help them with that, but I have to make them realize it's actually costing you a lot. And then, of course, I get my problem solved, which is I get a payment for that, or I get to work with people I enjoy working with.
Is it always a win-win situation, or can it vary?
I would say it depends on the situation, but for me and the clients I work with, I always encourage win-win, which means the other person should win and you should win yourself as well. Of course, there are situations when it's not necessary. When I was Rome, and the sticks came out where you could take selfie pictures, I thought I was so good because I negotiated the guy down from 15 euros to 12. Really proud. Then I walked a couple of 100 meters with my family, and I saw they were on sales for 3. Right. This is not a long-term relationship I had with that guy. So he was happy to give me a 3 euro discount. Right. But if you're dealing with clients you're working with again and again, I think the best is really making sure that they come out on top as well.
To have a long-term sustainable
Yeah.
relationship.
Of course, again, if we're doing with kids, I could get my way one time, but if it's costing me in the long term and I got to struggle every time more, it's not optimal. Yeah. So if you win, you risk losing the relationship, and that's going to cost you more.
So the relationship is basically the most important thing in
Yes.
that negotiation, especially if it's a long-term relationship.
Totally. I mean, the relationship is everything. We want to buy from people we trust, know, and like. Yes. So building that is the foundation.
Yeah. What decision do you think the other person is making in a negotiation?
They're basically thinking one thing, maybe two things. We mainly base decisions on fear. So it can be a current fear we have or a future pain.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to obviously minimize that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, okay, if you buy a course from me, it's going to cost me that much. But what's the risk that I don't gain anything from it, or I gain very limited, or I lose my time?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what they're thinking. But there's also, there's a future pain. If I don't get this solved, well, I might still, if I get on stage, be really nervous. I want this fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a lot about fear.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you're dealing with somebody and you're noticing that they are making decisions or talking out of fear, do you want to move them into the pain perspective?
You want to make them feel pain
Yeah.
infinitely, because if we talk just public speaking,
Mm-hmm.
because okay, what's it doing to you
Mm-hmm.
that every time you get nervous, you get on stage?
Mm.
Oh, well, I don't get to connect with people XYZ. They share all their pain. Okay, how long has it been going on for? Wow, I've had it for more than 10 years. Oh, okay. What have you tried? Oh, I've tried this and this. And then, maybe then you, at a certain point, like you can move them over to the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be okay if I shared how I've helped people from this and this company actually get it solved? Oh, no, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you kind of share a little bit. You get permission to share your solution, but you want them definitely to feel pain first.
Okay. It sounds like it is that their natural state is that how we work, human beings? We always consider fear before pain?
Yeah, it's a bigger driver for us to avoid losing something.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if I asked you, and if you're like the majority of people, and I said, you can win 100 euros, you roll the dice, you get it if you roll 1, 2, or 3, but you lose 100 if it's a 4, 5, or 6.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would you take that one?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't, no. So we could up it out a little bit and say, okay, you would win 100 if you go 6, 5, 4, and 3, but you lose them if it's a 1 and 2. Would you do it now?
Probably more likely than scenario number one.
Yeah, but it's more likely. But even though statistically speaking, you would make money, right? But the risk is still there. That means we're more.
It's a big risk.
It's still a risk, right? So we definitely want to avoid the pain, and that's you want to minimize that. So you don't want to make them feel bad about themselves. You just really make them realize, okay, there's this challenge, this problem. Yeah. And of course, you can say the biggest gap you can have between your pain and a better future is really what's going to sell it, right? Again, if it's just like, yeah, you might feel it's slightly better on stage, like, wow, okay, what difference is it going to make? So really widen the gap between pain and a better future. That's the key. Yeah.
Is that also a big challenge for you as a negotiator?
Yeah, well, the challenge is you got to help the one you're talking to see what the pain it's costing them. Okay, what's it costing you now that your project leaders are not clear in their direction, that you're wasting time in meetings. So just a while ago, just had a meeting with someone, and we talked about, okay, they're losing people in their company. Like, how much is that costing you? That's about $500,000 every time someone stops. And then there's the hassle finding someone new, change of culture, and all that. I'm like, yeah, okay. So yeah, dig into it. I know it can sound a little bit harsh to dive into pain in that way, but you do it in an empathetic way.
It sounds like it's the cost of not changing, not taking action.
Yes, most people don't take action because they're afraid of change. It's troublesome. The pain is not big enough. I mean, sometimes you meet people and you say, oh, have you thought about your pension? No, not really. I haven't had time. And they're like 50. You haven't had time for the last 25 years. Not really, because it's just too much trouble to go in and spend maybe half an hour looking over to that. But if you make them realize and say, this is going to be a big problem for you in 20 years, because how are you going to provide for yourself and your family? And you make them realize, like, okay, thank you for opening my eyes.
So before you enter negotiation, let's say somebody has an important meeting or a negotiation coming up. What has to be clear within you first before you enter a negotiation?
Obviously, I think it depends on what you're negotiating, but things, if you're so let's say it's for me, it's a payment. I would say, okay, what's my minimum that I am willing to accept? What is like the minimum things I want to accept? Get clear on that. And I think a big part of it is also getting emotionally ready, because most of the things in a negotiation is psychological. Getting ready to control your own feelings, but also be ready to kind of co-regulate the other one. I know that sounds a little bit, sounds wrong, but you have to be able to help them as well in their situation, especially if they get a bit emotional. And prepare your arguments. What's the value you bring to them? Yeah. So your minimum acceptable is for me a big one, and getting ready emotionally.
So the minimum acceptable outcome.
Yeah.
And also emotionally regulate the other person.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
There are a lot of different techniques you can use. So if it can be, as I said, to get a little bit agitated, or you're having a heated conversation, you can say, it sounds like I triggered something within you. Oh yeah, you did. It was like I really got bothered by you. Okay, oh, that was my intention. But so you kind of help them phrase that thing, or you can have a concern voice. It sounds like this has been going on for a long time. Oh yes, it has. And then they kind of open up. It's like, it sounds like it's been going on for a long time. That's very harsh. I don't want that tone at that moment. There might be other ways I can regulate them and challenge them if we have built trust. And say, now what would change if you didn't do anything about this big problem? That's a little bit more challenging in the tone.
Very interesting. Very interesting. You need trust first, right? Before you can accomplish anything in the beginning.
Yes. So you want to establish trust within them. Yeah, that's true.
It sounds like when you talk about your voice and how you asking questions, it sounds like having empathy.
Yes.
And showing empathy, and empathy doesn't mean feel sorry for the other person, but understand where they're coming from.
So right. You don't need to have sympathy. That's me going, oh, I'm sorry. Empathy is like, I understand your world. I might not agree with it, but it's just like, hey, I see that's a big problem for you, or that is important to you. Yeah, so true.
Is it common, Oscar, that people enter negotiations, too hard, too firm, too rough from the beginning?
Some people go very hard at it in the beginning. I work with a lot of companies in the construction business, and this is a really challenging business, because there are different actors in the industry. There's the one building it, there's the one counseling, and maybe the one that's going to take over the building. So there are a lot of different conflicts and interests there. And there's sometimes a very hard environment where there can be some clashes because the interests aren't always aligned. And then, of course, you got to be able to deal with that. But yeah, sometimes people, I think, go too hard at it and they risk losing their relationship.
How do you distinguish between, if somebody has a true need, a preference, or if it's just the ego talking?
Yeah. So that's a really good question you have there. And I would say, when is it a need? That's like a deeper underlying thing. Like a need that could be being feeling valued or recognized. So a little bit deeper, right? And when do we have that? Like I saw, read some time ago, one that says, okay, if you let a day pass by and it's not really of interest, it's probably not anything big for you. We all get this, oh, that'll be nice with this online course or whatever thing. But you wait a day, it's not really of your interest. It's probably not important. If you wait a week and you're still kind of interested, yeah, okay, there's something about it. If you wait a month and still interested, then I would say that's like a big need.
Mm.
So I say, because emotions are very quick,
Mm-hmm.
but if you can sustain it over time, it's probably important.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, so perhaps an advice would be before you buy that big course or make that big investment, if you put
Mhm.
it aside and you still hear that voice week after week, month after
Yes.
month, you should
Yeah.
probably do it.
Yeah. If you go see a big house, and maybe that's going to be the biggest thing you buy in your life, and you're like, I love that house. You know, go see it a few times. Wait some time. Does it feel right?
Mm.
If it's just a little pen that looks nice, yeah, buy it right away. You
Mm.
know, yeah. So time is a good indicator, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
another way to really discover is a technique we often use in our courses. It's very useful in many ways. It's called the 5 whys technique.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you keep asking why. So you say, okay, why is it important for me
Mm-hmm.
to help people? Okay, it's important for me because then I feel fulfilled and I feel like I make a difference. Okay, why is that important? And then I come down to the end. It's like, well, having a life that makes sense and full of meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So you can ask yourself, why is that important?
Mm.
Several times, and then each time you get the answer.
Mm.
Yeah. Ego for me is a little bit different. It is like it's your status, your fear, those underlying things that we often don't talk about, sometimes feel a little bit ashamed of. Because, yeah, at the end of the day, we are also animals. There is a hierarchy and certain things. But digging deep into that, is it a fear based decision? Is it
Mm.
to be recognized, or is it you feel ashamed, or what is it
Mm.
that drives it?
Mm-hmm. Mm. That's very interesting. I like the 5 whys because every answer you come up with,
Mm.
why, and you get to the true meaning, more depth, I guess.
100%. It was developed by Toyota in the 90s to build cars better, faster. But you
Mm.
can use it within humans and really get to the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you're nervous on stage, really discover what is it that makes you nervous. Oh,
Mm.
there's a lot of people. Well, why do you
Mm.
get nervous when there's a lot of people?
Mm.
Well, because XYZ, and then you keep answering. Like, okay, maybe there was something I wasn't fulfilled in my childhood or whatever it is. You get to it if you dig deeper.
Mm-hmm. Wow, beautiful questions. And I guess when it comes to public speaking, yes, you might be nervous, but I think a lot of people are just, afraid they will look stupid on the stage. They will fall flat on their faces, and people will laugh at them.
Yeah.
Big embarrassments. And then if you go beneath that, you're probably going to get a different answer. About self-esteem, about being rejected, and so forth.
Yeah, as you mentioned, if getting laughed at, loss of status. That's one of the worst things. Think about in the old tribal community, if your
Mm,
status is lost, you have less access to food, protection, and partners. Status
mm,
is the most important. It's
mm,
so deeply rooted within us.
mm,
But of course, you can work with that,
mm,
so it doesn't limit you as much as it often does for people.
mm, mm,
But understanding that just gives for many people, and I, oh, really? That's what's causing me to be afraid.
mm.
So a nice example you have there.
It
Love that.
shifts something in your mind. It shifts something in your mind.
Yeah.
And what I also find uh, very interesting is that most audiences, I've never met an audience who wants the speaker to fail. Most audiences wants you to succeed, to thrive on the stage, because emotions are contagious. If I'm nervous, anxious, and I meet my team, they're also going to be nervous and anxious. But if I'm confident, if I'm calm, if I'm relaxed, even if I'm nervous, but I'm genuine and I'm fine with it, they're also going to be fine with it.
I totally agree. It's incredibly rare you want to see somebody that wants you not to do well. And if there's one that doesn't want to see you do well, is that really someone we want to give them our attention or good advice? That they
True.
don't share the value I have. So in that way, they have just lost all power within my sphere because I don't share the same value and ethics as that person. And of course, I agree with you. If the audience will mirror us, it's the same in a negotiation. If you feel confident in your products, in your services, they need to tap into that. Like we've done this before. We've worked with several companies like this. We know this case. We're going to get something really valuable for you. But if they feel doubt, probably not going to buy from you.
Yeah. So it sounds like, just like Daniel Kahneman, who wrote the book Thinking Fast and Slow,
Yes.
we make decisions based on emotions.
Totally. I mean, I love that book. Most of our decisions is the system one, as he talks about, the fast decisions, biased decisions, and the slower decisions is number two. And that's why we talked about letting time pass, you have more time to reflect and think. There's a better chance you can use both systems. Both are valuable. Yeah.
So, Oscar, we've talked about now negotiations. What
Yeah.
is a negotiation, preferences, mindset, and so forth. Now, a lot of people I know are usually nervous before they will talk with their boss about their salary or negotiate a role at work. What do people misunderstand most about negotiating, for instance, a salary or a role at work?
Yeah. If we just take salary, I would say what I think a lot of people misunderstand is the salary is not the most important. The most important for most people is feeling valued. So, for instance, if you're in a company and let's say you're making the same as most other people with the same years of experience as you're probably going to be, yeah, fine, I'm good. I feel valued, kind of like everyone else. Then you move to another company. Let's say you just move to another company and you get raised your salary, let's say just 500 euros more a month. But all the other people with the same experience as you, they're making 1,000 euros more than you. Most likely you'll be pissed off because you're like, hey, man, I'm not feeling valued here. Like everyone's getting treated better than me, despite I bring just as much to the table as them. There's a lot of, and what I also think, so that's one thing, really understanding is often a feeling of being valued, and the payment is often, it just needs to be good enough. It needs to be fair. When it's fair, there's often a lot of other things you can negotiate on. Sometimes the budgets, they say they're fixed. Obviously, they're never fixed. There's always money in the system. So when you get told there's no more money, it's a lie. 9 out of 10 times or more. But anyway, there are also a lot of other things you can negotiate. You can negotiate working from home one day. You can negotiate getting on a course. You can negotiate on being part of a new project where you can develop more or get more responsibility or whatever it is. So you should open up the box and don't just think about money. It's just one thing.
How do you approach a boss or a company if you feel that you have not been valued? Let's say I make $500 less than you, Oscar.
Yeah.
And we do the same job and we are equally talented.
Yeah. I would talk about it in a good way and say, I would seek for some empathy because it can be hard and you want the other person to get into emotions. Say, John or Ibrahim, I really like you, but there's something I got to tell you. It's a little bit hard for me to actually share this, and it's actually been bothering me for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's that everyone else is getting paid more than me in this department. And I just feel bad because I feel I'm delivering the same or more. How come that is the case? And then you wait and you want to ask questions. So you bring out and say you share what I call professional feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, sure. We can be human beings at work and say, actually, I don't feel valued.
Mm.
And that's a big problem for the manager, not feeling valued. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be a really, uh, you know, not a nice person. If
Mm-hmm.
you can't understand not feeling valued isn't good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you share your reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see what happens.
Mm.
Like, oh, really? Is that the case? Oh, we didn't intend to. Yeah, okay. Well, what can we do about it?
Mm.
Well, oh, well, we have a salary negotiation next year. Hmm. And then you
Mm.
pause a little bit. That's a long time to wait. Just come with a stick. Oh, yes, I know. Okay. And you want to, keep around the problem and
Mm.
see if they to take the bait if there's something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've heard sometimes that, the budgets are sometimes flexible, or am
Mm-hmm.
I totally way off? Oh no, sometimes we are flexible. You want to see if you can talking
Mm-hmm.
and just keep asking questions. I don't know, is
Oh,
this useful?
it is. It is. So basically, you enter the room, you talk with that person,
Yeah.
and you want to create that professional feeling
Yeah.
where you basically shed light on the fact that you don't feel valued,
Yeah.
and you're not attacking them. You're asking questions, and you're
Yeah.
also being vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you come with an open mindset, and this is the situation.
Yeah.
How can we solve this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is very fascinating because I mean usually when we look at the media, our
Mm.
leaders in the world, it seems like we associate thumping your chest, being
Yeah.
loud, uh, telling everybody how it is, and
Yeah.
being strong, being forthright, and taking up space and being loud. Seems like this is what people think is normal in negotiations.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from movies. You see the strong man, this is how we do it, and one, or you walk into the room and you're controlling the room. That is leading through power. That is leading through your hierarchy. But true leadership, it doesn't require a hierarchy. It requires them to be like, I trust this person. I like this person. I want to work with this person. So when
Mm,
you turn around and you go out the room, they're like, hey, I'm still here with this person. I want to deliver for that person.
mm,
The other people that just demand people to do it, you can have a short term success maybe, or have them deliver something when you're there.
mhm,
But that's not true leadership. So a lot of it, I think, comes from movies. And then politicians, when they, go at each other, they're really not negotiating with them. They're negotiating with the people who are watching.
mm,
Right. So that's really just a fake negotiation.
mhm,
It's just, want to make the other person look bad. Yes, that's valuable for them because everyone looking
mhm,
is or the ones they're trying to persuade.
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So yeah, a lot of empathy and asking questions. And a great question I think is if you're getting paid less and delivering well is how am I supposed to feel valued here when I'm underpaid?
mhm,
Can you answer me that?
mm. How am I supposed to feel
Valued
valued?
when I'm
Mm,
underpaid here.
mm,
Can you answer me that?
mm,
Probably it's going to be very hard for you.
mm. That's a great question. That's a great question. I think a lot of people would say, "Oh, this is not fair. I should earn as much as John. You know,
Yes.
you should pay me more."
Yes. And this is
And
you going into attack mode
hmm,
and being really aggressive, really powerful. There's a time and place for that. But at the end of the day, the negotiation success doesn't rely on you telling them what to do. It doesn't rely on you having great arguments, a little bit, but mainly it's about you realizing, oh, yeah, that's right.
hmm,
When you come to the phrase, that's right. Oh, I see where you're coming from.
hmm,
Oh,
hmm,
yeah, that I think that's right.
hmm,
I compound you with a lot of arguments,
hmm.
but you just might get defensive.
And that's what usually people do when they feel attacked. It doesn't really matter if you're right, if your
Yeah,
arguments are valid.
yeah,
If
yeah.
if you attack me, the natural state is I will be defensive.
You will attack back, be defensive. You'll go right into what we talked about with Daniel Kahneman. System one, the fast one, the quick one,
Hmm,
the aggressive one.
hmm,
And you probably act out from your ego, status, fear, loss of recognition, maintaining your hierarchy.
hmm. Should you also have that kind of mindset? The professional feeling, making the other person feel that you don't feel valued when it comes to negotiating when the power dynamic is unequal.
So who's in power when we're negotiating? It's almost always the one who asks the questions. So, for instance, let's say someone comes to me. Let's say I booked a meeting with someone because I want to sell them something, and if they're very, demanding, like, "Oh, ask so what you got for us? What should we buy from you?" That's a question.
Mm,
They are in control. I said, then I'll reframe it and say, I don't know. Maybe we aren't a good match. Do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions just to get to know your understand situation, and then I'll
mm,
explain how we might be able to help you? Oh yeah, okay, go ahead.
mm,
Oh, a lot of times we're out and we see project managers. They're not really good at communicating.
mhm,
So after meetings, people aren't sure what to do, and then I'll mention a couple of things. Really big consequences. Is that anything you could relate to at any level? And we're like, oh yeah, of course. And then I'll be like, do you mind me sharing how we've helped XYZ company
mhm,
uh, solve a similar problem? Oh no, go ahead. Then I do my pitch
mhm.
and I answer, but I don't answer before. It's kind of like, hey, I'm in control. So questions is usually a great way to get control back.
Mhm. So asking good questions.
Yes,
That's
good
powerful.
questions. Or if it's very tough, somebody's speaking badly to you, you're like, is it really necessary with that tone?
Mm,
Oh, ooh, oh no, I didn't really mean to. Oh, okay.
mhm, mm,
You kind of call them out on that, but you're still
mm,
asking a question.
mm. You're asking a question and not being triggered, and that way you bring them down a little bit.
Yes.
But
So,
had you attacked them back,
yeah.
you raise the level.
Yes. It's like, don't talk to me like that.
Mm,
And the struggle is on.
mm,
Or is it still a little bit aggressive? So is it really necessary with that tone? But you still
mm,
in a nice way and see if the bait, oh no, I didn't really mean to. I just had a bad day. Oh no worries. Let's just go on.
mm. That's
Yeah.
great. That's
Mhm.
great.
So question is the number one thing I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And then also you can redirect them to what is really important,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let's say, which is a classic one that comes up, is price always, right? And so the services I charge, I can say that they're higher than the average. They're not the highest, but if you're like, oh wow, that's a little bit high,
Mm,
so I'm like, okay, what are you looking for? Like cheaper solutions or a little bit more high quality, where with higher likelihood of really making an impact.
mm-hmm.
You know, oh no, we're looking for high quality, okay, because we're a team of 10 people. I work with, and we've had more than 40,000 people in our courses, and so we know what works because we always evaluate with the clients and the participants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, okay, but you know what? It's yeah, those sort of things. You kind of change the frame to
Mm-hmm.
what's the result rather
Mm-hmm.
than the price.
Mm-hmm.
Also, think about that. I would say is that which direction are you going into?
Mm-hmm. So usually when people bring up the price,
Mm.
uh, if you would give me a percentage rate, would you say 70% of the time you're able to convince them, or does it happen that they just say no because of the price?
So if they just want a price right up front, um, you can give that to them. But again, I would ask them if I could. Do you mind me asking a couple of questions just to understand your situation better?
Mm-hmm.
Then I can give you a price because
Mm,
we have a lot of different services.
mm,
Oh well, okay, you can ask. Um, so again, I'll try to ask questions, get them more involved with that.
mm-hmm.
And if you basically just give a price, it's usually just a no. They're not interested. Maybe they're just looking for a price because they need to. If it's a public company, maybe they need to go out and get 3 offers, but they already have one. And I can also ask them. It sounds like you need a price to come back with to someone else,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not really someone you're actively looking for hiring. Is that right? Well, yeah, it is actually. We kind of have one that we already picked, but we need. Okay. Do you mind me asking what I'm up against, just real quick, before I
Mm-hmm.
send you the price? Well, we're up against XYZ. He's been here for 3 years, and okay, I don't think I can do much about it. If I can't really, so okay, here's the price.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or if I can, yeah, we are a little bit more expensive, but what you get with us is XYZ. Could
Mm-hmm.
that be anything of interest? Adding that. So again, asking questions, getting to know more. And if they basically need the price, you also think about your own time. Is it really worth it for
Mm-hmm.
you? Maybe it's just the price and then move on to
Mm-hmm.
someone else.
Mm. In your experience, do most of the clients, customers, start with a no and then you turn into yes?
It depends very much on the situation you have.
Mm.
Of
Mm.
course, if it's an inbound, they come to me, that they're very open. If it's me reaching out, you have to do a lot more work to open them up.
Mm.
Um, so,
Mm.
but of course, most people are a little bit defensive.
Mm-hmm.
I would say when you're working with companies, as I mainly work with, money is not such a big issue because what is really important for them is not so much how much it is, it's more that you're sure that it's high quality because it would be a
Mm.
disaster for them that if I run a course day with 15 or 25 people and they say, we didn't really get that much value out of it, then
Mm.
it doesn't matter if it was 5 or 10,000 more Danish crowns,
Mm.
100 euros,
Mm.
200
Mm.
euros, or 2,000 or 2,000 euros more. The disaster is people coming back and say, we lost the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're mainly
Yeah.
looking for quality. So that's
Yeah.
in their mind. If it's a private person that I used to do a lot for that wants to be a professional speaker, they're very, how much is it? I need to talk to my partner.
Mm-hmm.
Those sort of things because it's a private economy.
Mm. It's different. But for the big companies, it's chicken legs because they it's the value, it's the results. And if they bring
Yes.
25 people, an entire day, that's weeks worth of work.
Yeah. So 25 people and you divide that by 5, right? That's 5 weeks work
Mm.
plus loss of status in the company if they hire someone that didn't deliver. They're like going to be mad at the HR or whoever hired you.
That's not good.
Right? That's like no,
That's not
like
good.
no, it's not good. So they need to be like 99% sure that this is good.
Mm.
So then it's a different. It's not so much the payment. Of course,
Mm.
it's always payment we gotta discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oscar, if we move on now,
Mm-hmm.
when one side uses a deadline or uses, threats,
Mm-hmm.
what does it psychologically do to a negotiation?
For me, threats and deadlines are very different. So let's do with threats first. When we are threatening someone, it means I'm desperate. I don't have any more means to negotiate. And I notice if I'm with my kids, I'm like, if you don't, this will happen. Like, ask her, stop it. This is a bad way to go down. I feel triggered, right? You can relate, maybe. I think any parent can relate to that, right? Unfortunately, but it just means they're desperate with threats. That's it. And then again, I would just call them out on it, just to be really clear. Is this a threat? Oh no, it's not. Okay, and then you pause. Or it's not helping me, then you're threatening me for us to find a solution. If you then up it a little bit, right? So threats is one thing you got to deal with, and then there's the deadline. The other question you have. Deadline for me is it's always flexible. Like when they say we got to be done in 2 weeks. Okay, but deadlines can be moved around usually, so it can often be like a fake deadline or whatever. So just be aware of that. Sometimes made up things. And your question was, once again, with the deadline.
With the deadline and threats is, what does it do psychologically to the negotiation?
Yeah, you put some pressure on. And I can put on a deadline to people and say, just for us to make a decision, actually to help you a little bit. Because I know sometimes people, if they don't have a deadline, they just keep postponing it and they never really make a decision. Would it be okay for you? You buy the offer and you give me a decision within 3 days. Of course, if there's something you want to discuss that's uncertain within the offer, let's have a new call. Would it be okay if we made a decision within 3 days? Of course, yes, they say. Or do you need a week? Oh, all right, I'll give you a week. So they feel in control, but they need to make a decision. It puts pressure on. But I think it also needs to be done in the right way. It's like, I need an answer from you within 3 days. Like, no, you don't. I don't want that. Then you're attacking me. And then the relationship is being hurt. But if it's framed as a help, it's better.
Framed as a help.
Does that make sense? Like, I think it would be beneficial for all of us to.
Give me an example.
Like that with let's say it's a private client that says, I want to speak a training. Would you ask her? And, we had a nice talk. I'll send you by the office. You can read it. Would it be a help that we made a decision within 3 days? Because I know a lot of people, they actually never end up making a decision. I've tried this 100 times. They say they do, but it's just for us to either know we go with it or we don't. If it feels right for you, we go with it. If not, no worries. Yeah, and that'll be okay. 3 days. Or when will you get back to me? When it's realistic? A week. Okay, cool. Do you mind if I call you or just reach out in 10 days? If you forgot about me, I know sometimes people are busy. Oh, no, that'll be okay. Again, I ask permission to bother them if they skip the deadline. Because the salesperson that calls them, I just called to check in. Don't. But if I agreed and made it say, it was okay that you follow up, then it's a little bit easier.
You're preparing them for.
Preparing them. Do you mind if I call you just to get things moving? And you know what, Ibrahim, if you're busy that day and you really don't want to talk to me, just say, I don't have time. Call me back in 2 months. And I'm just going to be like, of course. I'm not going to ask you anything else. Would it be okay if I just follow up in that way? And you always have permission to say, not today. Then people are like, I can get that salesperson out off the phone. I'm tapping into their world.
Yeah.
But I'm still using deadlines.
Yeah, deadlines.
I don't know if that kind of answered your question or we went off to a tangent.
No, it did. It did.
Okay,
because
cool.
it does something psychologically to the other person.
Yes.
But the one part of the question was threats.
Yeah. The threats is puts on, it hurts the relationship always. No one ever likes to be threatened. So threats might make you do something right away, you know, but what about the next negotiation or the next or the next or the next or the next? If you're a leader and say, if you don't have this report finished by 5 today, you're not going to be able to work on the other project next year. Like, that's not very nice. You're threatening me. I'll probably have the project done by 5. That can be pretty sure. But the day that the tide turns and I have a chance to regain influence or make you be in a bad light, I'm definitely going to do that. You just lost all trust, all likability. So it's a short-term gain threatening people.
Short-term game, yeah.
Short-term gain. And if you're in this for a long time, don't ever do that.
Well, I think we see that clearly. This is not about politics, Oscar, obviously, but we see that clearly in politics because I think in the next 1 or 2 weeks we might have a war in the Middle East, and I know that they are negotiating right now, and the president has set a deadline. I think it was a 10-day deadline or 2 weeks deadline. If they don't have a deal, he'll escalate or use force.
Yeah.
And that's going to be interesting to sit in the room and see how those diplomats are negotiating.
Very, very interesting how they negotiate. Again, I think the deadline is flexible. We've seen it 100 times with Trump. Like, that deadline's just been moved on. So for me, it's kind of lost a little bit of value within that. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if those threats can actually work. Yeah.
We'll see. So that leads to another question, because now we've talked about unequal power, we've talked about deadlines, we've talked about the use of threats. What responsibility do you think the most powerful party carry in a negotiation?
Yeah, what I really think is critical, and also just at workplaces or at home, wherever you are, when you're the one in control, is to create psychological safety. That's one. What is psychological safety? That means I can ask the questions that are a little bit hard for me, that are a little bit, you know what, to your manager or your boss. It's actually bothering me a little bit every time we have our meetings in the department. There's never really an agenda. And the thing is, I feel we're losing a little bit of time. And I've told you this before, but I feel you still haven't really done it. It's really important for me that we get a little bit more structured on that. Now, for most people would be a challenge to go up to your manager and say that. But if there's safety, the manager's like, I'm so great to say that. Thank you so much, because the meeting in the end is for you. I didn't know I did that to you. So creating a safe environment, and you don't create a safe environment by saying, oh, my door is always open. You do it by having empathy, but also asking questions like, okay, what's the one thing that frustrates you most in this department? Or what's the one thing I could do better to run this department? And you don't just ask it once, because the first time, like, yeah, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, we could have a new coffee machine, or maybe we could bring cake, every Friday, whatever. Like, but you ask the 5th or the 6th time, like, it pisses me off every time that we have our meetings. You're 5 minutes late. There's no agenda. And whenever somebody says a good idea, it's always like, hey, do you want to take that one? You go with that one? So, right? That really pisses me off, right? Can you say that? That's like, so you got to ask questions that are difficult and show that you're genuinely interested in them, helping them. That's creating a safe environment. And most departments that was actually studied on this, it was a hospital where this thing came out with psychological safety. They were measuring the amount of mistakes that the doctors and the nurses reported. And then they were measuring how well the departments within the hospitals were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Those departments that reported more mistakes had fewer fatalities. They had patients recover quicker, faster. Whereas the other one that reported fewer mistakes, more fatalities. Like, no, this can't be right. The reason was there was safety in the other one to share things they were concerned about, things they
Mm-hmm.
weren't working as well, so they could fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that is the number one rule, I think. When you're in power,
Mm-hmm.
making the other one feel safe and valued.
Mm. Great term.
I did it.
Psychological safety. Psychological safety.
Yes. So one practical thing I did when I was a high school teacher here in Denmark, I used to work as a high school teacher. The problem is I give them the grade, but I also help them. That's a problem because if they come to me and say, Oscar, I'm really struggling with this thing, I'm like, okay, you're not doing so well. A low grade for you, my friend, right? So, or they're afraid to challenge me because they think their grades was based on how much I liked them, likability plus skill.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, it wasn't, and purely skill.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, anybody that's a human being can be affected without thinking about it, but in an ideal world, only skill. So, what I would do is I would pick a couple of students too and say, you know what, I'm going to walk out this room now 15, 20 minutes. And you now fill out a form here in the classroom. What is working well? What am I doing well? It's like, okay, what is not working well? What should I stop doing? Or should we stop doing? What should be changed? Ideas for change. And then a list of other things. And I'll go out the room and all of you discuss that and put it up. Now be nice to me. I'm a human being. So respectfully, just put it up there and we have a talk.
Mm-hmm.
So that means when I could come in the room, like, okay, oh, you have that point. Anybody want to elaborate what was meant? So they all kind of in it together rather than the individual.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew there wouldn't come them individually. Maybe some would, but often not.
Mm-hmm.
That is for me creating safety and trust with them. So I can't pick, oh, that was you. That didn't like me doing that, you know. So that's a practical way in a classroom setting to do that.
That was a great example.
Thanks.
That was a great example. A leader has a responsibility, like you say, psychological safety. I'm a soccer referee,
Okay.
and
Wow.
and usually when I referee games, I can within the few first 5-10 minutes, depending how the coach is behaving, how he's taking care of his players, if he's in control, if he's calm, collected, usually the players are also calm and collected and focused on the game.
Yeah.
But usually if you have a coach that is angry, agitated, nervous, shouting, screaming, the players will also mirror his behavior.
Yeah.
And this is a great example. As a leader, you have that responsibility, just like you say, to make people feel safe and valued.
Yeah.
Psychological safety.
Your referee position, that's demanding, I'm assuming.
Well, it is. It is. It's about handling emotions.
Totally.
As a referee, sometimes you have to raise your voice when you're really not negotiating, but if you're not building trust with the players, you're not going to have an easy game.
Yeah, I think build trust, and if you can, a little bit of likability. One of my friends, he's actually also a football coach, and sometimes they complain about him. And yes, this joke he always uses, and he says the level of the referee corresponds to the level of the players. And so kind of like, okay, if I suck, you know, the lower ranks get the lower referees. So you can use that if it's in the lower league, and they kind of laugh a little bit. Yeah. Maybe you can use it. I don't know.
Yeah. It's I'm actually the lower referee, so
Okay.
I'll definitely use it.
Let me know how it works.
I we've talked about resistance, right? When people say no,
Hmm.
we've talked about powerful questions to ask
Yeah.
as well, asking
Yeah.
questions, because when you ask questions, you are basically in control and you're also able to direct the conversation towards a certain path.
Sure.
But there are certain negotiations where you're always reaching a dead end.
Yeah.
And my question is, what signals tell you that it's time to walk away?
I mean, you do your preparation before you come in and you think about, okay, what's the minimum thing I can accept and deal with? And I think if you've been curious and you've asked a lot of good questions and you feel, okay, we're probably not going to meet ends meet, it's not going to make sense, then yeah, I think it's time to move on and make a better deal somewhere else. We always
Mm-hmm.
have options.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've been curious, asking questions, you feel they're a situation and they can't give you what you want, then I think it's time to walk away.
Mm-hmm. So
And
if they can't give you what you want.
yeah, and you've been curious about it,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say often don't slam the door, right? Um, it can be you can make a little opener and say, "Oh, I wasn't picked this time. Is the door totally closed for future
Mm.
possibilities to work together?" Oh no, 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 we just went with another trainer this time.
Okay.
Oh, great. Do you mind if I just kind of reach out in 6 months to just have a short coffee chat and see if there might be some options?
Mm. Mm.
Oh no, you can do that. Okay, cool. I'll put it in my calendar. Reach out then.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know. So is the door totally closed if they went with another one that was cheaper, and you don't want to go with that low price?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes the best thing you can do is to move on as well. Yeah, I remember when I started off my speaking career.
Hmm.
I had a client, and he gave me an assignment, and I did the assignment, and I presented it to him and also to the HR manager.
Hmm.
And but I really never got feedback, so I kept reaching out. I kept reaching
Okay.
out, and I
Hmm.
also always kept getting the same answer. We'll get back to you. We'll get back to you.
Hmm.
But then over time, they just stopped responding.
Okay.
And I think if it happened today, I would probably have moved on much earlier
Yeah.
than I did 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, and maybe it also comes from, I mean, you're in a good position. I mean, regularly getting clients, but of course, also when you're maybe a little bit newer, you have a little fewer maybe clients or leads. You might be hanging on a little bit more to them, but it can at some point lower your status if you keep reaching out. I have
Yeah.
a phrase that I use, which I picked up from Chris Voss in his book, a really great book on negotiation, which is, "Have you given up on the project?"
Mm.
That's just it. "Hi, Linda. Have you given up on the project?" I tell you, man, 9 out of 10 times they answer back, "No, no, we were just busy, blah, blah, blah." They feel
Mm.
a little bit ashamed that they don't reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like my last go to. If they don't
Mm-hmm.
get back to me on that one, move on.
Mm. That's a great question. Did you say the book was called On
It's called
Negotiations?
"Never Split the Difference."
Yeah.
Really a classic within negotiation.
Mm.
A lot of the course I do or we do have techniques from that one just
Mm-hmm.
applied to
Mm-hmm.
the engineering world.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's a question. It's just one phrase. There's
Mm-hmm.
not a whole bunch of "how you doing," just checking in kind of thing. No.
Mm.
Boom, one phrase. It's so easy to answer. And if
Mm.
you don't,
Move on.
yeah, move on.
Move on.
That's it.
What's the author's name?
Chris Voss. He's an FBI hostage negotiator.
Mm.
And it's very practical advice. I've probably read the book 3, maybe 4 times,
Mm.
certain chapters 4 times.
Great. Great.
Yeah,
I'll make sure I'll get it. Thank you.
because it's so good. I mean,
Thank you. I have two more questions for you, Asker. And
yeah.
the first one is, what one practice would you recommend to somebody who is going to negotiate?
The one practice I probably would go in with is the mindset of, I want to understand you. Being the curious mindset.
Mm.
Okay, what's preventing you? What's holding you back? What have you tried before? Why is this a problem to you? Just curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
and if they can feel I'm curious, real genuinely trying to help you,
Mm.
then a lot of good things can happen. It can
Mm.
also be, oh no, we just need a 1 day, 1 hour, and then I'll be honest and say, I can come, and I can entertain and give a few inspiration. But just to be honest, it's not really going to make a difference on the budget for your department in the long term. You still want me to come? I can come and give you a 1 hour pep talk,
Mm-hmm.
but just to be frank, it's not going to make a difference.
Mm. Mm.
That's being curious and honest as well.
Mm. Be curious and honest before you go into the negotiation.
That's your mindset. Is I want to
Mm.
help this person.
Mm.
And I want to understand their situation.
Mm.
So many people go, oh, I would like to share with you a couple of things. Why? It's on me. I'm curious
Mm.
on you,
Mm.
and your situation.
Mm. Mm. So basically, you know what you want, but you're also aware of what's in it for them.
Yeah, you
How
really
can
got
I
to
help them?
yeah, how can you help them?
Mm.
And of course, you know where you want to go, but you also want to have an open mindset. Things can change, whatever, oh, we do 3 courses. Sure, we find a nice deal for you or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Mm.
yeah.
Great. Oscar, before I ask you the last question,
Sure.
is there anything I should have asked you today?
Oh, man, I think your questions are so good. Really lovely, awesome questions. You got so much empathy. You're so curious, you're a good listener. So no, I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of good stuff.
Mm.
Yeah. Maybe I would say one thing that's a really nice tip is to pause.
Mm.
You ask the question, you pause, and just
Mm.
see what happens.
Mm.
People don't pause enough when
Yeah.
they talk. They're so afraid of the silence.
Mm. Mm.
You have power when you pause.
Mm.
It connects with the other person.
Mm.
So more pauses. I think that's just a very simple technique people can use, but they often forget it.
Yeah. And also, I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with the pause.
Of course.
So, for instance, I remember one time a client asked me, how much do you charge? And I said my price, and he didn't say anything. And I just wanted to fill that pause with, oh, I'm so sorry. I can give you a discount.
Of course. I mean, I've been there, it's like stated end price and then shut up.
Yeah. But he told me, he said, no, your price is good. It's okay. Just relax. Your price
No,
is fine.
but if it is a little bit high, you can prepare them and say, most people get really surprised about the normal prices we charge, that I charge. Like, oh, Ibrahim is really expensive. And then you mention your price, like, oh, okay, sure, it's a little bit more than standard prices in the market, but we can find that.
Mm. The last question that I ask all of my guests is one advice for a better, more meaningful life.
That's such a great question. Thank you, man. Question. I thought a little bit about it because you sent me the questions before, or some of the questions. For me, coming from an engineering background and in a family, I grew up with a lot of science. That being kind of within the family is that I was, taught to use logics. Wow, this looks good on paper. Get a good education, work your way up in a company, and so on. And nothing wrong with that. But what I've learned over the years, for things to be right, it first and foremost has to feel right. So if it feels right for me to run courses, speak on stages, do certain things, then I, of course, also use a little bit of logic. Okay, does this make sense to do? But the go-to strategy is make it feel right. Because in the West, we have so much tendency to focus on the rational, the logical thing. Yeah. So that would be my best tip.
Well, thank you, Oscar. I loved how you tied your introduction with it feels right to do what you do today. And you tied it to the last question, do what feels right. I have enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for all of the information. And I'm taking with me a lot of stuff here today. Most people want to be understood. You told us that negotiation is about solving problems. You also told me about the 5 whys, asking the 5 whys. And a lot of people, or most people, at least human beings, want to feel valued. And you also mentioned professional feeling. And what I also love is when you said true leadership is not about hierarchy. It's about psychological safety. Oscar, thank you for a great conversation.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll stay in touch.
We'll definitely stay in touch. I enjoyed it so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.